Okay, what's going on, guys? And welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the guest, man.
We've got the Barstool repping, Fight Island flying, UFC Apex attendant, son of a gun, that is Mr. Robbie Fox. Robbie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. How are you?
Doing
No,
great,
no
Robbie.
worries, man. We're happy to have you. Great,
That was a
great to
great
have
intro.
another one of our.
That was a great
obviously,
intro. Yeah.
I may or may not have ripped off the Nature Boy Ric Flair, but since you're an avid WWE fan, Robbie, I had to do it just for you.
Yeah, for people who aren't aware of Robbie, like he's doing amazing stuff with Barstool Sports, an avid wrestling fan, avid MMA fan, and today we just thought we'd get Robbie on, just do a bit of a collab, go over everything, how Robbie got into Barstool Sports, everything about Barstool Sports, the UFC, MMA, just the general crack. So if you are new to the show, make sure to like and subscribe. Ross, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, Robbie, first of all, tell us, how did working for Barstool Sports come about? Because it's such a big organization, and it's actually like broken over into Europe as well, with the likes of Troops now from AFTV now representing over there. He is like bona fide insanity, but it's great to see.
He's the man. Troops is the friggin' best. We just did Rough and Rowdy with him, and it was his first time, like, sort of on the call. He was absolutely hysterical. But I have sort of a unique story getting into Barstool. I got super into Barstool when I was like a teenager. I was introduced to the website by my older cousins, my much older cousins, who probably shouldn't have introduced me to the website at this point, but I was like 12 years old. So I was like, this is so funny. I saw like Dave and Big Cat, KFC. They really only had like a dozen employees maybe, and they were all spread out around America. Like they weren't bought by any big company. They all worked from home except Dave, who worked in like this really crappy office in Boston. And I just started emailing them and being like, I would love to work for you guys. Like from the time I was 13. And I was like, I would send them t-shirt designs. I would send them sample blogs. I would send them sample podcasts. I would send them like whatever I could think of to get my foot in the door. Because I looked at them as like, it looked like everyone was just getting paid to be friends. It was like they were like friend or like frenemies at least, because some of the people obviously have rivalries within Barstool, but it's all like fun and games at the end of the day. And I got my first email back from Big Cat when I was 14. And he was like, dude, you're 14. We can't hire you. Like, thanks though. And I just kept sending stuff. So like even in high school, eventually some of my stuff got through. Dave used one of my shirt designs. He sent me a check. I remember like when I was a junior in high school for a couple $100 for a shirt design. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to cash this because he signed it, but I have to, because I would need the gas money, you know? And eventually they got bought by the Churnin Company, or bought out by the Churnin Company, where they moved to New York. The whole company moved to New York, which was perfect for me because I grew up 14 miles outside the city.
And that was a massive
oh my God.
Well. That was a massive
Absolutely, yes. So I was like, oh my God, they're going to be moving to a big place. They're going to be moving to a big office. They're definitely going to need interns. Maybe this is my foot in the door. So I emailed everyone, and eventually the golf guy, Riggs, wrote back and was like, hey, I need an intern. And I had in my resume like some podcasting experience, because I had been emailing Barstool and just doing my sample podcast for so many years that I had eventually learned how to edit. And he was like, we're doing a golf podcast. Like, can you come in and do the edits for that? And I was like, absolutely, no doubt about it. So as the intern for like golf, world news, politics, everything I don't know anything about. And all the golf fans always get so angry at me because the first golf course I ever stepped foot on was where they play the Masters at Augusta National.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this video. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the first, I was like, I mean, this is amazing. This is what golf is like. And they're like, no, this is not what golf is like. This is what heaven is like. But yeah, and eventually I just started like trying to kind of weasel my way into writing. I'd be like, hey, nobody was writing about MMA at the time on the site. It was still a very small company. I think when I started, there was like 26 employees total. And now Barstool's to the point where I think we have over 200. But it was just like, I don't know, can I write one blog a day? Can I write maybe 2 blogs a day? And then it kept going from there. I made a couple videos, and that caught the eye of Dave. As I was like an intern, he's like, who's this intern making MMA videos where he's getting beat up over here, super kicked in at wrestling shows and whatnot. And he told me, he's like, let's take you off the Foreplay podcast and let's just put you on your own content thing, see how you do, MMA, wrestling, whatever you want to cover. And that's kind of how that all started. That was almost 4 years ago now. I started over 4 years ago, but the full-time thing will be 4 years ago, I think, this month.
Ross, there's a lot of things to like dissect there. especially Robbie, could you just time frame from, say you're around 14 until you eventually got in the door with the golf stuff? Like, what was the years time span between those two?
So I think the first actual application I sent, I was 13, and I got my foot in the door when I was 18. I was in college. I had just graduated high school. I didn't want to go to college. I knew school was never like something that was good for me. Like, such an anxious kid in school, they call it a bad test taker. I wasn't the smartest at algebra and geometry and sciences. So
you're preaching to the choir here. Like,
I was like, man, am I going to go to college right now? Like, all I wanted to do was go to community college for long enough to where I could get my foot in the door at Barstool. And that luckily happened right after my first semester. Like, actually in my first semester, I got the internship. And then as soon as my second semester started, I got the full-time offer. And I remember I was I was 18 years old at that point. And I was in my CEO's office, Erica Nardini, and she made me the offer. It was like the greatest feeling in the world, right? I've been applying for 5 years at this point, weekly for 5 years. And getting so many emails back just where they're like, oh my God, this kid's so annoying. The first time I met Dave, I was like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Robbie. And he's like, fucking Robbie Fox. He's like, did we hire you? He's like, you've been emailing me for so long. Jesus Christ. He was like, you have the worst. He said, you have the worst shirt designs I've ever seen. I was like, but I made it in. But it was like, I got the offer. I left her office. I dropped out of college. And then I called my mom. I was like, I have great news for you. And I have news that is great for me and that you're not going to be the happiest about, but I am hired full-time at Barstool and I already dropped out of college. She was like, oh my God, you're going to continue with online school, right? Because Barstool at that point still 4 years ago even wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
And I think there was part of her that was still oh my God, what is my son doing? He's getting beat up by MMA fighters over here. And now she loves it. To the point where when I almost got arrested outside the Conor Mcgregor protest, she just texted me, great content. She's all in.
we'll definitely get into that, Robbie. Ross, what do you make of 5 years of just growing and making sure, just not giving up and then eventually getting your dream job?
Well, I suppose sometimes when you are chasing your dream, you can't give up on it and you have to be persistent. And I think two things that are key to anyone being successful in life are persistence and passion. Robbie has both those in abundance, which is evident from the story you just told. So I think, when you put those two things into perspective, he was never going to give up. He was going to camp outside Barstool Sports before they gave him a t-shirt and went, come on in, you're one of us, So look, absolutely incredible story. What age are you now, by the way, Robbie?
I'm 22. Turned 22 this summer.
Unbelievable. I could definitely see you having such a massive successful career. Just you've already had a successful career compared to some people who are in the game probably 30 or 40 years longer than you. But I can just see it going from strength to strength, because at the end of the day you do have that passion, and I think now that you've already got the job, your passion's undeniable, and I think that's something that we greatly admire anyway, and that's why we wanted to have you on, because we were like, that guy he just gives it socks every time we see him.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's very kind of you. And I always say, and people at Barstool actually say, say what you will about Robbie Fox. You could watch his friggin' fight reactions and be like, look at this fucking twerp that they got covering the fights. What in the world is going on? You could watch his nerdy reactions, me balling to the end of Avengers Endgame. And they're say what you will about him. He's got passion. He's unabashedly himself. And that's I think pretty much the key to my success at Barstool has been just being pretty genuine about it. Being, I'm never trying to be oh yeah, I'm an MMA analyst. I've fucking trained and I've got this, I've got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and I've tapped out black belt. I'm no, I don't know anything about the intricacies of it. I'll interview everyone about it. I'll try to get the intel from them. I'll try to dumb it down to the people that I want to get into the sport. That's who I'm mostly writing for, mostly doing my videos for, the people that are what is this crazy MMA guy doing? And maybe they watch the pay-per-view because of that. And then maybe they're oh my God, this is awesome. And then boom, we got a guy reading blogs, a guy or girl reading blogs every single day because now they're into MMA. Those are the people I want to get. So I'm always just pretty genuine about it. I'm I'm a big fan. I don't know much about what I'm talking about. I think that comes through in my Dana White interviews too. I feel I ask the questions that the fans want, which pisses off some of the media because they're ask them about fighter pay, ask them about this, ask them about that. But I always look at it like I've described my interviews more as like late night talk show than they are journalistic. You know, I'm looking for laughs more than anything. And that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, no, just the passion you do, like you exude on camera is unreal. And then like the platform you're on now at Barstool is just taking you to another level, having the inside access, like going into the warm room with Dana White. Like that's something me and Ross like would love to do amongst nearly every fighter. Look at the board, who's fighting next, tell the lads. But like and one person we have to just talk about is Dave Portnoy. What he's done. First of all, what he's doing right now for independent businesses. Do you want to just explain to the people who like follow our stuff and aren't really aware of Dave what he's doing for independent businesses in America?
Yeah, so this all started with obviously the shutdowns in America due to COVID are pretty harsh, especially on like the coast, LA and New York City. Restaurants are just getting crushed. Like businesses are going under because they put the restrictions on. They'll say no dining at all. Then they'll do the 25%. Then they'll do only outdoor dining if you build a structure for outdoor. Basically, just businesses are getting crushed left and right. And Dave made a video kind of calling out, I guess, the people that are making these laws, that are making these restaurants go under, these small businesses, because they've built Barstool from the ground up. You know, it was a newspaper originally. He's handed it out. You could check out, I think there's the documentaries on YouTube now.
Yeah.
It's pretty
brilliant.
well done. It's yeah. And it's short too. The episodes are like 10, 20 minutes. So you get the story pretty quickly. And he has that passion for small businesses still, like very much still truly. So he said, you know, what are you doing? You got to keep these open. And I think like a multi-millionaire said, hey, put your money where your mouth is. Let's start a fund. You put 500,000 in, I'll put 500,000 in. And Dave said, let's do it. I'll start the Barstool fund. Put $500,000 of his own money in right away. Immediately, the first restaurant that he decided we're going to help was Borelli's, which is, if you watch his pizza reviews, he always says, all right, Frankie, the cameraman, Frankie, has a restaurant, a pizza restaurant that has been in his family for, I don't know, 3-4 generations. I feel like it's been there since, they had the Islanders Stanley Cup parades in the 80s, and they have the pictures of people holding the signs on the roof of it. It's like an iconic Long Island restaurant. There's a great video of his dad reacting to like Dave basically making the fund for him to make sure, hey, we're going to save this restaurant. And you know, it's emotional, and you could feel the passion. And now it's gained so much traction that there's over $30 million in the fund. We've helped, I think, over 200 small businesses. And if you go on his Twitter, the Barstool Twitter tweets him out all the time. I retweet him all the time. He will FaceTime the people that own the small businesses to let them know the news. And these videos are like, in a world where, you know, Twitter is always hostile and politics are running rampant left and right, they're the most feel-good videos every time. Like I get emotional every time I watch people, you know, crying, being like, oh my God, we were going to close next month and now you saved us. And the way the Barstool Fund works is, as long as the money is in the fund, which we have $30 million now, the money is, you know, there. Every month that the restaurants are still shut down due to COVID and the restrictions are still up and they're struggling, Barstool is going to check in and give them the money they need to keep paying their staff, keep the payroll going until the COVID restrictions are done. So it is honestly like the coolest thing in my 4 years at Barstool I've ever seen the company do, in my 10 years of being a fan of Barstool that I've ever seen the company do. And just that, like, every single day these videos are coming out, still like 10 videos a day. It's crazy. And every single one hits. Every single one, I'm like, damn, I'm proud to be part of this company.
That's unbelievable. It's great to see, you know, well, first of all, it's an unbelievable PR stunt, but it's not a PR stunt. Like, you can actually see the passion that Dave has, that like he wants to help. Helping people at times like this are what really make businesses and brands who they are. And it really shows their true colors and Barstool Sports' true colors, and absolutely incredible. And the amount of people he's keeping in work is probably in the thousands, really. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
those New Yorkers need to eat, you know what I mean? And, you know, you don't want to lose those top quality restaurants. So it is very, very important. I mean, where's Robbie going to get his pizza from if all the pizza places are closed down?
I know. You Domino's, get out of here. No way.
Robbie, like, when you look at Dave and like how he's like his inner core has come across as if it stayed the same, but his passion has gotten bigger and bigger, and nothing is too small. It's very, like, it's almost as if he's looking in the mirror at Dana White. Like, it could be a Boston thing, I don't know. It's very, very similar things, but like, working with Dave and like knowing Dave, what about him is it that just like lights the fire in his stomach? Because he can retire like what he's doing now with sorry, excuse me, your man from TikTok, Josh Richards. He's doing a podcast there.
Oh
like,
yeah.
The pizza reviews, the way he's so diverse. Obviously, he originally started on newspaper, but now he's going into TikTok and podcasts, and no stone is left unturned. Like, and he can retire now. Like, what is it about Dave that keeps him going? And what a man.
It's an interesting question. It's a great question. I think it's a few things. I think one is work ethic is just insane. I think when you start something as a newspaper and you build it up to the point where like you're ringing the stock bell at the stock exchange and you're in a publicly traded company and you're on radio going, I have unlimited money. He always loves to say that line. He goes, I have unlimited money. Like I can't spend the money that I have. When you go from that level, you got to have a certain level of like just drive that can't go away. You know what I mean? It's almost like, to make an MMA comparison, like Conor McGregor fighting Dustin Poirier. It's like, what the hell would he fight one of the best in the world? He could just go chill on that yacht forever, but he still loves the game. I think Dave still loves the game. I think the Penn deal that happened, so we got bought by Chernin, like that was like 4 years ago. That was before I even joined. And then recently Penn like acquired, invested in the company and made it way, way, way bigger. And that is a gambling company. So Barstool leaned into the gambling content as being legalized across America. And that was big for Dave as well, because he's such a gambler at heart, and being able to like actually finally be able to make content talking about, this is the line that I bet on, this is what I did, and having the opportunity, I think, even to make those around him like share as much of the success as he's got. He's got such loyalty to those around him. Like he really, like in 20 years, I was going to say 15, but now it's like 20 years, has barely fired like anybody. The people that were with the company in the beginning are still with the company today. And the people that did get fired, like you kind of look at all the examples and you're like, all right, that was like a situation, that was this, but I can count on one hand how many in 20 years. So it's like, I think there's an aspect, and this is me speculating, but I think there's an aspect of him having loyalty to those around him, being like, damn, I have unlimited money now. Let me make these people millionaires. He's even said, like, after the Penn deal, he wanted to make sure that all of the people that were originally in the office with him in Boston became millionaires, which pretty cool boss thing to do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems like a guy who like wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning and then goes to bed at 12 o'clock that night. Like, I feel like he doesn't sleep a lot.
Right now, especially, like I was with him rough and rowdy just this past weekend, and he's still like, he's calling all of these businesses every day. Like I said, like maybe 8 businesses a day. So he's making the videos for them. He's still blogging. He's still doing the pizza reviews. He really is like, what do they call the hardest working man in show business? It's either him or Frank the Tank, who Frank the Tank did raw dog and hot dog review after Rough and Rowdy. It was tremendous. 1 a.m, he went to Sheetz to do it, and it was like a gas station hot dog.
That's where you get the best ones. But the thing is with Dave, like he's after creating something that's so unbelievable that it's going obviously around the world. Like myself and Ross here, we originally started doing like radio course together just as a duo, and we wanted to get on radio. And this is even like we weren't even doing Instagram, and then also we move on to Instagram. We're like, here, do you know what? We don't want to talk about Kim Kardashian. We don't want to talk about that sort of entertainment world. We want to just get into like the sports and the crack, and then especially MMA is blowing up here. And like we both have ambitions for it to be like the biggest in Ireland, let alone let's see how we get on the rest of the world. But like conquer your own country first, and then let's see what happens with the rest. But like that passion that Dave shares, it's like it goes to show that like anything can be built online if you put hard work and passion into it. And that's what a load of fighters these days, you know, yourself, are trying to build up their brands, but they have to get themselves out there. Numerous ones starting podcasts as well.
Absolutely. Like persistence too. Like that's the key. Is just, and I learned, like looking back, I'm like, I think I was probably persistent in the annoying way, not the like hardworking way, but I was still sending like examples. Like I see all the time people will send like, what can I do to work for Barstool? And it's like, I tell them all the time, it's like, act like you're working for Barstool already. Don't say like, I work for Barstool.
Come into the boardroom meeting.
Don't do that.
Hey, Dave.
But just like the internet is out there, so it's like you have pretty much all the same stuff that we have. Not that maybe not you can't get credentialed for something, but most of the best Barstool videos are just like stuff we filmed on the street. Like the Conor McGregor protest video, we didn't need any sort of special capabilities to do that. You could have filmed that with an iPhone. It was just the fact that it happened was like something funny. So I just tell people, like, the internet's out there, start a podcast. I say to everyone should start a podcast, even if you're like, even if you don't put it out, even if it's like a Creed Thoughts from The Office, where it's like you're typing into Microsoft Word and you never press publish. I just think it's cool to look back like 5 years after you do an episode with one of your buddies and you're like, that's like a funny conversation me and one of my friends had 5 years ago. You could show to like someone 20 years down the line and laugh at the stupid jokes you made back then. And podcasting, like, I've been literally podcasting since I was 12, which, what a weird Gen Z thing to say.
Definitely.
But it's like some of them, like, most fun I've ever had, some of the best laughs I've ever had. Like, oh my God, I would never stop.
Yeah, Ross, like, we've been doing this like for about 4 or 5 years, and for about 3 of them years we didn't know what we were doing, but we were doing something. So like, it's brought us everywhere, Ross, hasn't it? Like,
yeah, it really has. Like, we've been over to, like, I suppose New York was absolutely crazy. We went over to UFC 217, Robbie, and like,
I was there.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
you probably saw us. We're probably the crazy Irish guys. But like, I won a competition, and like, we met like Uriah Faber, Demetrius Johnson, Joseph Benavidez, Forrest Griffin, Bruce Buffer, Daniel Cormier, Chris Weidman, Robert Whittaker. We met all these guys on the purple carpet because it was
it was a Metro PCS.
That's it.
Yeah, Metro PCS. Yeah. And then Bruce Buffer announced me on stage and everything. And then like, we had these unbelievable seats that like, we were at the fighter walkout as well. And then afterwards, like, we got invited to TJ Dillashaw's after party. It was just like an absolute wild weekend.
What a whirlwind! Yeah,
we still don't know how we got away with it to this day. So what we did, and on top of that, you know, we always say, if you ask us going over on the plane, like, what's the best case scenario, that would never have been said, never in a million years.
I mean, even the card itself, getting the 3 title fights, the 3 insane finishes, that pop for the Joanna like surprise, and then people going nuts for GSP choking Bisping out. That was incredible. I went with Trent, my roommate, actually. And that was like through, I think it was like another thing where I felt just as lucky. It was through like a Barstool ad deal where they were like, hey, you got to tweet a couple times for, I think it was Reebok from the event. Here's tickets. Like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing of all time. And then we got to watch that card. So it was like, I'll never forget either. There was a woman sitting next to me. Like, we were pretty low, like on the floor. And there was a woman sitting next to me that didn't stand up for the whole card. She was probably 70 years old. I was like, whose grandma is this? Literally, she's got to be one of the fighters' grandmas. When GSP won the fight, she was jumping higher than I could have ever jumped. It was crazy. She was maybe like just GSP's biggest fan.
GSP's soy piece.
Yeah.
We were actually sitting beside this Polish couple, and I actually remember because I think Barry was like robbing vapes off your mouth.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah,
of course.
I remember sitting there, and I was like, these are the nicest $13 beers I've ever had in my entire life. And I remember Joanna lost, and I was like, no way. And only like afterwards, because you obviously watched most of them at home, I didn't realize, like, people were like, that was the best card ever. And I was like, geez, that card was brilliant. But because you're there for it and you're in the moment, you don't actually realize the reaction to people at home because you're living it. And that's one thing that I think at a live UFC event, you're like, that was incredible. But then when you hear what people are saying at home, you're like, Jesus, so I just witnessed like the greatest card of all time. It was definitely up there.
3 on news.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And 3 finishes too. It wasn't like no boring fights.
It was crazy. But
and like it's crazy because we had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on the podcast live before. And we're like, and Baz was like, yeah, and we saw you. And I was like, fuck, we actually did. You know what I mean? It's crazy because that card was stacked.
Yeah.
There's plenty more to come though, lads. But like, Robbie, you've obviously mentioned a couple of times the videos that went viral when you were like saying free Conor McGregor. For anyone who hasn't seen this, I don't know where you've been living. I'm sure you have seen it. But can you sort of tell us about that video and how, because you've done it a couple of times now, haven't you? There was a bit.
So it was a trilogy. I did as an homage to Star Wars. I made it a trilogy. No, I did. So the first protest was after he threw the dolly at Khabib's bus in Brooklyn. He had to come back to Brooklyn to go to court there because he got charged of whatever assault, whatever it might have been. And I found out about that like a week before. It was like very recent. I was like, is he really gonna be in Brooklyn? He's gonna come to Brooklyn. Like he has to be there in person. And I looked into it, and people were like, "Yep, there might be reporters outside or something." So I was expecting it to be a mob scene, like I've seen like on TV when you see like a big murder trial. I thought it was gonna look like that, like everyone there. But I showed up. It was like the night before. I made signs that said "Free Conor," and I texted a few cameramen at Barstool. I was like, I think it would be funny if we showed up and protested. It was kind of ripping off an old Barstool idea, actually, because like Dave Feidelberg, Gaz, and Hank protested when Tom Brady got
Tom
suspended
Brady,
from the NFL. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But that's what I thought of, and I was like, they protested the NFL. What if I protested like on behalf of Tom Brady? I protested on behalf of Conor McGregor. So
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, we're doing like a little new school generation thing. And then I showed up, and like I was the only Conor McGregor fan there, really. It was just a few media members. It was way less people than I thought. So I was able to make way much more noise than I thought.
Yeah.
And I just started screaming the most ridiculous shit you could imagine. I was like, the bus driver was asking Conor to throw the dolly up to him. He wanted him to hand it to him. I said it was CGI. I said I haven't seen the footage that suggests that Conor McGregor wasn't a deep fake in that video, and it wasn't done by Khabib. And now I start saying all this, and I'm just like, I'm thinking of the most ridiculous stuff I can imagine.
Yeah.
And reporters are writing it down. And we look later that day, it's in like RT Sports, like one McGregor fan says a bus driver actually asked for the dolly, and all charges should be pressed onto him. And they wrote it so seriously. It was so funny to read.
I think that's the first time I ever saw it. I think that was.
It was.
We talked about that.
Funny.
We were like, this guy is a legend.
Yeah.
So I met him in the first one too, because his lawyer came out and he like led me to the bail bonds place to meet him. And then the second time he had to go back, and that's the time that I almost got arrested because I brought the bullhorn. They like apprehended me and then gave me a ticket. And then the third one was my own court date, where I had to go to court for getting thrown into court for protesting the court date. Where we also, in the third one, had Za come to protest my court date.
And when's his court date coming
up? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He never got one. He got away with
passing it back. But,
yeah.
There wasn't enough media there for the Robbie Fox court date.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that's just the intuition to go and like do something that out of the ordinary and for the pop. It's so creative. Like you're actually in the perfect like world working with Barstool with so much creative people to be like maybe this, maybe that, maybe that. Because like myself and Ross, we only really sort of bounce ideas off each other and then try and grow from there. Whereas you have a whole team, it's unbelievable. But like
it's like a writer's room. Like we have talked about it in that way. Like if you ever have a funny idea, you could bounce it off like some of the funniest people that I've ever met in my life. Like, and I could just text them like that. It's like Big Cat, Roan, PFT. What do you think? Oh my God. Like that, sounding board is all you could ask for.
It's almost like the modern day Saturday Night Live cast, like something like that.
That's what Dave said his dream was when.
No way! I swear to God, I just said that randomly. Like
originally, when the Chernin deal happened, so that was like before I even joined. He said, "I am going to turn Barstool, this tiny company, this tiny blog, into the modern day SNL, where all the personalities you're going to look at as like cast members." That was his goal.
He's doing a bloody good job.
One thing I will say is like Ireland is actually screaming out for something like that. It really is. Like there's nothing for like males between like 18 and 35 to be like that's my shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There isn't, like, all the shows over here are so bad, and it was actually funny. You actually just mentioned RT. Like we actually pay, like the general public pays for RT as part of our taxes, and like some of those guys are on like blockbuster wages. Now, it might not seem like a lot to you, but like some of those presenters are on like 450,000 euros a year, and like they host one show on Friday night and maybe a radio show, and it's so generically bad, it's frightening.
By the way, that does sound like a lot to me. Do you see the shoebox? That is my room. Like, what do you think? I'm a rich guy over here.
I'm more thinking like Jay Leno or Jimmy Kimmel on what's they're on. Maybe not a lot compared to them.
Robbie, you're in the ballpark and you're only just getting warmed up. You've so much time left in this game. Think about what the UFC and the MMA will be in 10 years' time. Like it'll be on the moon at this rate. If Dana White's still involved. But like, as we were saying there, myself and Ross, like we're trying to cover that niche that Irish market of like people our age are like asking for, and like we're trying to get it as big as possible. Like obviously for like provide for our families later on in life. But this is what happens. You just do a weekly grind. You don't know how it is. But like obviously Conor McGregor, the biggest sports star in MMA right now. When did you first see him? Because now you're like interviewing him on Fight Island and stuff. And by the way, because we're a good bit into the show, if you are new, like and subscribe, because Robbie was meant to come on the show fight week, Ross. We had this huge UFC 257 fight week. Robbie didn't show up. He texted us once we were done. He was like, lads, I was asleep. And we're like,
you know what? It was like you know, in wrestling when what's it called when the champion is partnered with the number one contender and they're in a tag team match, maybe against the tag champs. You know, the champion comes down to the ring first, and then the number one contender's music hits, and he never shows up.
Oh man, it's like the week before WrestleMania. Always, it's like before the end. It's like, oh man, he didn't show up. Now they gotta fight. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Abu Dhabi. I'll tell you what. Going to Fight Island, the 15, 16, 18-hour flight over there, whatever, and then being 9 hours ahead. And trying to stay in East Coast Standard Time because that's when the Conor McGregor fight would happen. But events later in the week happening, or even earlier in the week happening, like in normal time, it sent me for a loop. Even a week, I'd never got jet lag before in my entire life, flown a decent amount, never got jet lag. I was like, I think jet lag's a myth. Oh my God. The week after I flew back from Abu Dhabi, I was a zombie. I was like a walking corpse.
I actually said to Barry when we didn't hear from you, I go, he's probably asleep. Like, probably just is like, I said it to him. But yeah, what's called, tell us, when was the first time you laid eyes on Mystic Mac?
So as a fan, the first time I ever saw Conor was his entry to the UFC. I knew him, well, I guess a little bit before that, but when he signed to the UFC, there was a little bit of buzz about him.
That's what everyone says now. They all pretend they knew him before the UFC.
I did not.
No, everyone was at their debut, Ross. Everyone was at his amateur debut.
Yeah. I didn't see the amateur debut. It was when the UFC signed him, and there was buzz about like the UFC just signed this loudmouth Conor McGregor from Ireland. So I check him out. I watch a few of his interviews. I watch a few of his knockouts. I'm like, cool. I watch a few of his fights, and the UFC debut, I was like, amazing. Next fight, amazing. And when it got to the Poirier fight, I was like, man, this guy seems like the real deal. He's trash talking like a WWE wrestler. That was like my main appeal at first. I was like, man, he's like a heel right now. This is amazing. He was wearing the suits, and I was like, I remember being reminded of Chris Jericho when he started coming out in the suits with the short hair. I was like, this guy is just like, he talks the shit and then he just backs it up. He goes and he does exactly what he says he's gonna do. So the night of the Poirier fight, I was like, if he does this, he's my guy. He's just my guy from here on out. He gets it done. Obviously, I bought the shirt he wore in the octagon that night. It was like the playing card where he was the, dethroned fighting Irish guy.
That dethrone gear was quality, wasn't it?
Oh, such a great shirt. And how about this story for you? The morning of UFC 257, I go to the W Hotel, which is the fighter hotel, not where we were staying, to interview Matt Frivola, who was like a Stoolie, big Barstool fan. I had never interviewed him. Exactly. So I go over, he says, come up by the pool. It'll be like a fun backdrop. I said, perfect. Go over. 2 seconds after I get there, all Conor's bodyguards walk up, and we're the only ones by the pool at this point, really. And then Conor, D, and the kids walk up. They walk right over to us. I'm wearing the shirt that we're talking about right now, the dethrone shirt, because I was like, it's fucking fight morning. I was getting excited about it, right? But now Conor walks up. I'm like, oh, I feel like such a mark. I wish I was trying to hide it,
You jump into the pool.
And it was the first thing he said to me. He walked over and he's like, what's up, Robbie? This is like the day after I got to interview him. And he's like, what's up, Robbie? And he goes, oh, you got the old school shirt. And he was like, oh, he's like dethroned. And he's like, I was too young in the game to sign away that logo. I don't know what I was thinking. He's like, I should get that back one day. And then he like went into morning meditation, and I just got out while I was ahead. I was like, that was a good interaction with the champ. He knows I'm not a lunatic now. I'm getting out. I'm not even saying goodbye.
It must be so hard not to linger around him as well.
It was a little bit. When he started meditating, I think I lingered for about 30 seconds and was just like, oh yeah, he looked ready for that fight. And then I was like, all right, this is creepy. Kids are right there. I'm leaving.
You just stand around them and you feel richer. But Robbie, this almost like transitions into a perfect question from Craig Strain 19. What does Robbie think is next for Conor, and does he see him as a lightweight champ again? Shout out for the question, Craig.
So if you asked me that question right after the fight, I might have said, I think Nate Diaz is next for Conor, and I don't know if he's ever the lightweight champ again. But I've watched the fight back a few times. I've marinated on my thoughts. I've redialed my brain into being a McGregor super fan to the point where I'm saying, listen, if Khabib is retired, if he's really done, if we've really seen the last of Khabib, that makes Dustin Poirier the best 155er in the world right now, right? Like, without question, I would say, after the run he's been on. McGregor looked damn good against him. So if he could just, do away with those leg kicks, if he could figure out a way to neutralize those in the next fight, yeah, he could definitely be the lightweight champ again. So I'm going to say, what's next for McGregor? It might be the trilogy with Poirier, because now he's saying, we've heard Kavanaugh say he's already obsessing over it, kind of like he did the Diaz fight. He's harassing people. He wants the rematch. Poirier has said it's one of the only fights that interests him. He wants a big payday. It just did 1.6 million buys for the UFC. So it makes sense for Conor. It makes sense for Poirier. It makes sense for the UFC. The question is, like, do you want to do that right now? Do they want to risk Conor losing? Because, man, if he loses twice to Poirier, twice in a row, in the casual public's eyes, like, to MMA fans will be like, okay, he just lost to the fucking best in the world twice. He might be done in the eyes of a lot of casual fans. They might view him as like a Ronda Rousey after Amanda Nunes situation, which I don't think would be the case. I think Conor could still hang around and fight Ally Quinta for all I care, and we'll do the whole build up like it was Cowboy, and that'll be fun.
Man. Exactly.
But it's just a matter of like what the UFC wants to do, whether or not they want to risk the public looking at him as like a washed up has-been, when really he's just slightly losing to the best in the world after almost knocking them out.
Robbie, I have one massive question for you, which I'm actually dying to know, right? You're probably one of maybe 50 people, if not less, who are non-UFC fighters who have been to the Apex and to Fight Island during the pandemic. What's the difference between the two, and then which do you actually prefer?
That's a great question. So the difference between the two right away is the Apex, the COVID precautions are, in my opinion, they were like safe. The lockdowns were as strict, but they weren't as like gruesome to go through, because when you're on the other side of the world, and me, that was the first time I ever was out of America, so I just wasn't used to this. The TV had like 8 channels. None of them were in English. The Wi-Fi in the hotel was not very good, and a lot of the internet was banned over in Abu Dhabi. So a lot of it was just me like staring at a wall. Like the Fight Island experience was just like staring at a wall, looking out the window, and I was on that weird sleep schedule. So it was always night when I was looking out the window. It's nothing interesting to see. I was outside the week I was on Fight Island for less than 5 minutes total. Like we just weren't outside. It was crazy. The event itself was way cooler than it was in the Apex, because you have even the 2,000 fans in the 18,000 seat arena were cooler than like the, 12 people that are in the Apex. That's cool in a Fight Club way, especially for like the main event. The rest of the card just didn't feel real. It felt like I was at a high school wrestling meet or like an exhibition of some sort. It was just kind of strange in the Apex. In Etihad Arena, I mean, that was like, by the time Conor walked out and the crowd was chanting the Olays and waiting for Dustin to walk out, I felt like it was a Conor McGregor fight. The energy was actually there. I will say, the Wednesday card, the who was it? Michael Chiesa and Jeff Neal.
Magny.
Neil Magny. I always Neil Magny, Jeff Neal. It's like the tongue twister. During that card, someone dropped a plate or some kind of silverware in one of the suites, and all the way down by the octagon, we heard it. So like there was a weird dynamic in that point where you're like, someone just dropped a plate 10 stories up and we heard it. But for the Conor fight, the energy was there. So I would say I prefer the Apex experience, especially because as a big fan of marijuana, that's legal in Las Vegas, and it's highly illegal in Abu Dhabi. So I didn't have any of that over there. I prefer that outside experience. The event experience, it's way cooler in Abu Dhabi.
You know what? That actually makes sense. Well, first of all, I don't know why, but like I always felt if we went to Fight Island, I don't know why we'd be staying in the W as well, even though you don't. And then also,
I kind of felt that too. You don't. The hotel's not bad that you stay in, though. It's actually pretty nice.
And when you watch it on TV, I always feel like,
No, yeah.
I was just going to say there's a bigger fight feel in Fight Island. That's all I was going to say. There's a bigger fight feel on Fight Island.
The cage sizes as well wouldn't have been smaller.
Yeah.
In the Apex.
Oh yeah. You got the smaller cage in the Apex. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, okay, Robbie, like, obviously you got to get both experiences in, and you're going to get many more. But like, how does it feel to be like on first name basis with Dana White, who's just doing amazing things these days.
That's like some fake life stuff. That doesn't even like, I still like, I posted an Instagram story the other day and I called, what did I say? It was a Red Hot Chili Peppers album. And I was like, this is one of the greatest albums of all time. And Dana just did the reaction thing and he put 100. I was just like, what? He's reading my Instagram stories. Like, that's the craziest stuff in the world. Like, like I said, I'm an MMA fan. I don't pretend to be anything else. So the fact that Dana White is like helping me out, he helped me get that Conor interview. He was like, let me put in a good word. Like, let me see if Conor has a few extra minutes. Like, the fact that he's actually helping out in that way, the fact that he gives me the time that he gives me, and honestly, like the respect that he gives me at this point, I feel like he understands that I'm not ever going to try to be the gotcha journalist that's trying to, get a big hit piece quote out of him. So he, I think, gives me more access, maybe the office stuff where he, like you guys said, like he let me into the office, the war room stuff. He gave me a tour of the Apex later on this summer. That stuff is like, I think there's just like a respect he has for the level of passion I have for the sport too. Because when I talk to him about it, even when the cameras are off, he'll be like, what do you think about the main event next week? And I'll tell him exactly what I think. Oh my God, I think this guy's going to fuck this guy up. And he'll either be like, yeah, you were wrong about the last 17 you told me. Or he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm excited. You're excited. Let me know what you think afterwards. Like he actually, the comparison you made to Dave and Dana White, very accurate. I see similarities between them all the time because Dana White still has such a passion about, like, he wants his product to be good. He's still involved in the nitty gritty. Yeah. He's involved in the behind the scenes, and he's sort of the public figure for the company as well. Like his relationship with the media does, you don't even have to say anything there. Dave and him, very similar in that, right? So that's a perfect comparison. I always say, and they get along as well. Like they've obviously had a lot of interactions. Dana White donated $100,000 to the Barstool fund. And that was a funny story as well. So when Dana White put out the video calling out the media, which a lot of people were very upset about. Remember when he like made them look like they were like the mafioso bosses in a Godfather movie?
Yeah, I remember that.
When he put that out, I sent it to Dave. And this was in the early stages of the Barstool fund when Dave was like calling out all of his rich friends to donate. And I said, you should recreate this video, but instead of calling out like media members, call out your rich friends that you want to donate to the Barstool fund. And his response was just, why don't you call out Dana White? And he's just like, he put me in that spot. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to do anything for the company, anything for the boss. And I tweeted at Dana White, listen, I'm not rich, but I do have a rich uncle. Like, we got the Barstool fund going. I know you're a small business guy. What do you got? And he messaged me right away. Or Dave actually quote tweeted it, and he said, if you need me to help break his leg to find his wallet, let me know, Robbie. And Dana then responded to that, and he said, tell tough guy Portnoy to relax and give me his number. I'm in. So I gave him Dave's number, and he called Dave and he said, how much do you want? And Dave was like, whatever you can give us, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. Dana was like 100,000 done on the spot. So he was like in like that. They have that same like respect for, hey, we built businesses from the ground up, I think.
Yeah, I say they connect as well with the Brady thing as well.
The Brady thing, the Boston thing, of course, all the sports stuff, like that's perfect. And that's also, I think people don't realize this. Part of my connection to Dana is in the same way that Dave and him have the Boston sports stuff. Me and Dana like a lot of the same music. And that's a lot of what we talk about off camera. Like as soon as I show up, he'll be like, I was just listening to this Red Hot Chili Pepper song. I was just listening to this Rage Against the Machine album. Like, what do you think about it? And I'll say something about the bass line and he'll be like, oh shit, didn't notice that before. Or that's awesome. I was at a concert for this and they did that. Like, we like all the same music, and that helps our relationship. I start a lot of my interviews with like little questions about the music just to make it more comfortable.
There you go.
That is unbelievable. Sorry, you guys. I don't know if you probably did notice my internet went there a second ago, but like it's so crazy that you have almost instant access to one of the most powerful people in sports. I don't know. Like I don't know what I do if I had Dana White's phone.
Probably records.
I don't abuse it. I definitely never really reach out.
Yeah, no, Robbie, like obviously having that, and then like who knows what way the landscape's going to change over the next few years. I know they're opening stuff in Asia, like who knows what the UFC is going to look like in the next years. lads, just a question, like how much longer do you think Dana White's going to be around in the game?
Well, how much longer was it, or how long ago was it that he signed the WME deal at this point? Because he sign an extension? I think he actually signed an extension around the Masvidal Diaz fight. It was like a 7-year extension or something. It was a long one. I think Dana White's going to be in the UFC for a long time.
Over past 2030?
Yeah, I do.
I
think like 2035. I think he's almost a Vince McMahon type, to make another wrestling comparison, where like he might be 70 years old calling fighters kids and like trashing performances on the Contender Series.
Ross, what about you? How much longer do you think Dana's going to be kicking ass, literally?
Jesus, I think 2030 is a good over-under, to be honest, and I'd probably bet on the over as well. I think, when you look at the young stars coming through, well, maybe they're not actually that young in age, but young in terms of where they're at in their career, like Israel Adesanya. Like he always says, you might see the big stars leaving, but he's always got the next ones lined up. And I think as long as there's stars in the sport that interest him, he'll hang around for it. Also, he still owns a certain percentage with WME. So I think, as long as he's still financially invested and emotionally invested, I think he'll hang around. And also, he does such a good job. Whoever actually does take over from next is a poison chalice. I don't know if you watch soccer, Robbie, but like whoever was going to take over as manager from Manchester or from Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United was never going to do a good job. He was there for what was Baz 23 years, 24 years, 26. And the next guy lasted 18 months. So it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job to do.
Yeah. Basically, Dana's job is not a one-person job once he steps out. Yeah. But
agreed.
Lads, just because we're about to hit the hour, right? I'm going to just name some of the upcoming title fights that are coming up over the next month or two, and one non-title fight. And I just want to know what your predictions are for it, right? So I'm going to ask Robbie first, right? This weekend's UFC 258 headliner for the world welterweight title, Kamaru Usman against Gilbert Burns. Robbie, who do you have this weekend?
I'm going to take Usman. I think at this point, you kind of have to be a fool to pick against him, or at least if I did pick against him and then he went out and put on a performance like he did against Woodley, where he just like grapples him into the cage and works him against the fence or any of that stuff, I would feel like an idiot for picking against him. So I think you got to go Usman, but I love fights like this against teammates that have sparred a ton. As like the wrestling fan in me, I immediately play it up into like the Edge, Randy Orton, like they know each other's best weaknesses. They know each other's best strengths. They're going to neutralize it. So like, I get geeked out about fights like this. I'm very, very, very excited for this. This is like I'm sure out of the 8 fights you're going to give me, one of the ones I'm definitely most excited about is this one.
Same here. Ross, what about this weekend? Usman Burns?
I think it's about time we start putting some respect on the Nigerian Nightmare's name, Kamaru Usman. I think not only will he win, he'll win across the board, 50-45. He is one of the most dominant champions in UFC history. He is undefeated under that banner. He will remain and still UFC welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman.
I'll agree with you, lads, especially you, Ross, because I'm liking the shirt. Then UFC 259, lads, for the bantamweight title, Petr Yan's taking on Aljamain Sterling. This is a great fight. Robbie, who do you have for this one?
It's an awesome fight. I got to show my New York bias. I got to go with Aljamain Sterling. I do really think that he has the tools to win. The streak that he's been on, the tear that he's been on is incredible. And I would love for that Corey Sandhagen rematch to happen, because that first fight was that 1 round, like blitz, kind of a berserker of a Brock Lesnar, Goldberg. And now I want to see it again. I want to see that 5-round title fight between those two where they're duking it out, they're grappling. I think that would be incredible.
Ross, what about yourself?
Yeah,
go.
Robbie, just as probably you have loyalty to Aljo being from around your neck of the woods, we've got some loyalty to Petr Yan. Little do you probably know that Petr Yan's boxing coach is an Irishman. And so he's called the Bun Crana Bomber, and he is going to make sure Petr Yan's hands are vicious come fight night, UFC 259, March 6th. And still,
I did not know that he had an Irish boxing coach.
He was probably the only person at the Irish bar over in Fight Island. But Joe, I love Petr Yan striking, and that's nothing just blowing smoke up John Boy's technique, like his teaching. Pyotr has hands of stone. Then also for the women's world featherweight title, Amanda Nunes, arguably the GOAT, is taking on. She's taking on Megan Anderson. Robbie, who'd you have for this one?
Megan Anderson is a huge supporter of Barstool. She is a huge supporter of My Mom's Basement. She's done a bunch with us via Twitch. I've played Call of Duty with her, so I know how much of aggression she has on the battlefield. And I'm predicting she shocks the world. I'm predicting nobody sees it coming, but for some reason, maybe Amanda has food poisoning or something. She fights anyway. And Megan Anderson beats her, new champ. And maybe she brings the title into Barstool HQ. It'd be like the first time we got that women's featherweight title in the building.
Loving the loyalty. Ross, what about yourself?
I have to. Listen, I told you, I'm not an analyst. I'm not a journalist. I'm a fan.
That's the way it is. We're the same. We're absolutely the same. It has to be done.
Look, the Lioness, I don't think she's going to underestimate Megan Anderson one bit, but I think just seeing how easily Holly Holm could dominate Megan Anderson, the grappling exchange, I think Amanda Nunes is a better grappler again, and I think she's going to be able to take her down, and it'll either be a TKO or a submission win for Amanda Nunes, and still the GOAT.
By the way, Amanda Nunes, one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. So that is a tough one for me to declare loyalty on. I was at the Amanda Nunes Holly Holm fight, and oh my God, what a finish that was.
Lads, I'm going to have to go for Amanda Nunes for this. I went against her at UFC 200, and ever since I'm just like Team Amanda Nunes. Lads, one of the most discussed fights coming up on March 6th, Israel Adesanya moving up for the light heavyweight title, become the champ, taking on Jan Blachowicz. What are you expecting here, Robbie? Is it going to be is Jan going to shock the world, or is it going to be a new champ in town?
I think new champ in town. I think Adesanya's striking is just so much more crisp than Blachowicz. Like he has the I always call him Blachowicz. Is it Blachowicz? I'm so bad with pronunciation. I'm so bad with pronunciation. I still call Stephan Bonner Steven sometimes. I
thought you were going to say Boner.
Oh no! Oh my God, Stephen Boner. Yeah, Stephen Boner, my favorite fight. Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Boner. I just think Adesanya's going to be too fast for him. I think he's going to knock him out probably. But I do know, usually when those smaller champs jump up to the higher weight division, it is a tough challenge for him, right? Because we just saw Dillashaw
moved down.
Dillashaw went down, yeah.
So wait, when people move up, generally they're successful. McGregor was. Yeah. No, it's Adesanya. It's definitely style bender. Do you think Blachowicz is going to touch the noose again before this fight? He's got it, right? Have you guys seen that story?
Yeah, definitely. No, I thought you said, is he going to touch him, as in like touch him up?
No.
No.
This is a crazy story. I swear I'm not making it up. It's true. Blachowicz discovered a dead body in the woods when he was a teenager, hanging. And apparently in old folk tale, they used to cut the rope off, and the rope would be good luck, which is messed up in and of itself. It's like one of those old messed up dark things. They left the rope there, but before every one of his fights, he goes back to the forest. He touches it for good luck. Before his last title fight, he did this.
Maybe
I've written a blog about it on Barstool, and he had a quote before his last fight where he's like, I've brought the UFC production crew back to this forest a bunch, and they've just never included the footage. It's like, yeah, I know they didn't include the footage, buddy. That's some dark shit.
Yeah, maybe some Logan Paul-esque shit. I have not seen that, but I don't think it's going to change my opinion come fight night. As we said, Henry Cejudo moved up, Conor McGregor moved up, Daniel Cormier moved up. They all went and won the belt, and I think and Amanda Nunes moved up as well. Yeah. 4 out of 4.
I knew it was 4 out of 4 one way or the other. It was just like a USB. I had a 50-50 shot. I pick wrong every time.
We're going for 5 in a row. Israel Adesanya, and I think he'll get the job done inside the 5 rounds.
Lads, I love the hype and staying on the hype train and just believing in the hype. So I'm going with Adesanya. I just love it because then we could eventually get a John Jones fight as well. I'm just all over
exactly.
That. Right?
Exactly.
Right, lads, 2 more fights, right? Second last one, non-title fight. Leon Edwards taking on Kazmat Chimaev on March 13th in the welterweight division. Winner of this could arguably fight for the title. Robbie, who are you taking for this one, man?
just like you said in the last one, I kind of like believing in the hype train right now. I know he's come after McGregor a couple times, so he could be a future enemy in some way or another. But until then, I like the hype train. I like imagining that this fight ends just like the last fight, where he goes out and like blitzes him in 2 seconds. We're like, oh my god, is he gonna fight next week now? Like, I like the story of him fighting constantly, just wanting to get in the cage, calling everybody out. They should do like a tournament where they put like 8 regional fighters in the cage with him, and he has like 8 fights in one night. That would be that's what I want to see. So I'm going to go with Chimaev. Exactly.
8 murders. Ross, what about yourself?
No, I'm going to pick the upset here. I think Leon Rocky Edwards gets the job done. I think he's so good at disarming his opponents that he'll be able to come out with a unanimous decision win.
Right, lads.
Close one though.
Like, I know we've had Leon on, and this is very, very, very hard to say. But like, as I said, I love the hype train. I'm gonna have to agree with Robbie just because he's wearing matching color top himself. But lads, last but certainly not least, Stipe Miocic is taking on Francis Ngannou for the second time for the World Heavyweight Championship on March 27th. We're going to end with this. Robbie, who do you have to become the baddest man on the planet?
So I was lucky enough to be at the first encounter between these two gentlemen at UFC 220 in Boston. If you remember correctly, UFC fans that didn't see that, go back and watch the first round of this fight. The rest of the fight, turn it off. It's rounds 2 through 5. They're very boring. Stipe was able to neutralize him, lying on top of him. But round 1 was one of the most entertaining rounds of heavyweight MMA I've ever seen in my life. These guys were swinging with bricks on their hands. It was like rock'em sock'em robots. Some of the shots that Stipe withstood were insane. I think the Stipe Miocic we saw in the last fight against Cormier might have been the best Stipe we've ever seen. I know Ngannou's improved a lot. I know his cardio will be better for this, so I'm very excited for it to be a better fight than last time. Hopefully get round 1 type action in the whole fight, but I got to go with Stipe still. I think his overall game is still just good enough to neutralize Ngannou, but it's heavyweight MMA and it's Francis Ngannou, so he could land one of those Overeem punches and we could have a new heavyweight champ like that. And then that sets up a trilogy between those two, and like, who's going to be angry at that?
John Jones.
Basmo,
true. John Jones.
Time out for 1 second. Give me a timeout for 1 second.
Yeah, so Rossi, who's going to leave the baddest man on the planet?
I think it's going to be. I think I have a similar answer to Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. You know, I mean, we need to start putting some respect on Stipe Miocic's name. How many times is he going to walk into that octagon, UFC heavyweight champion and the underdog? I think this is going to be the last time that. Well, actually, it won't, because when he fights Jones, he'll probably be the underdog too. But I think Stipe Miocic is going to go in there and he's going to put on a performance that we'll all remember. And I think, and still, Stipe Miocic, UFC heavyweight champion, the Croatian sensation.
Lads, as much as I'd love to see the poster of Francis Ngannou and John Jones, I just think like Miocic looked unbelievable there last time. Ross, he looked the best physique I've seen him in ever, and I just think he's going to get it done again. But lads, before we wrap things up, Robbie, I have something to ask you, right? I'm going to put you on the spot. We were meant to get UFC Dublin for my birthday. Ross, what was it? It was August 15th. Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Till versus Whitaker.
And obviously because
great card too. Damn.
And obviously because that didn't happen because of coronavirus, obviously no one's fault. But you're gonna have to call in a favor to Dana. Next time when he announces, he has to announce another belt UFC Dublin, but you have to make sure to come over to Ireland as well, and we'll do this in studio next time.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. I've finally got a passport. Boom, passport, and I can come over to Ireland now. So I would absolutely love to be at the next Dublin event. If I could make that happen, I promise you I will be in studio.
And the first round's on Baz.
The first round's on me. The first Guinness. Well, there we go, everyone. You've heard it. We're holding Robbie to that. Before we leave, Robbie, thanks a million for coming on. Everything you're doing is great. Us Irish fans, MMA fans, are really enjoying the behind-the-scenes content. It's great. It's cool. We really love it. Hopefully one day we'll be in there. We'll be rubbing shoulders, us two, and that 70-year-old woman who was shouting out for GSP. But, Ross, anything else to say before we wrap things up?
No, guys, thanks a million for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always,
stay energized.